Currently, our estimate is that there's about 3,000 to 3,500 people in the Unasana canton that are still here. Everyone is trying to get to Croatia, but people at least spend some time here in Unasana canton. The exact number is difficult to say because people are arriving every day, but we also have irregular border crossings into Croatia every day. And there is no or not sufficient official accommodation in Unasana canton, so we don't have people registered in particular accommodation places where we could monitor when people come and go. The biggest challenge remains official accommodation. We're standing in front of Cedra Hotel, which is an excellent solution for families. It will go up to the capacity of 400 individuals. Currently we have about 150 individuals, all family with children, which were selected on vulnerability criteria, people from Bijac from the dormitory and people from Velika Kladusa from the field. But it remains as urgent as it was a month or two ago to find also accommodation solutions for the other people that will not be able to be accommodated here. We have close to 1,000 people currently in the student dormitory, which is clearly too many for the capacity of the building, at least in the shape that the building is now. We have people in the field in Kladusa, so that accommodation remains the biggest challenge. With accommodation becomes, if there's no official accommodation, there become protection concerns. People are vulnerable, whether it's fights amongst migrants, as we have seen last week in Velika Kladusa. People are approached by traffickers, by some smugglers that may not have the best of intentions and that try to defraud people of their money. We have vulnerable also young males that are exposed to drug gangs that try to sell them drugs, that try to recruit them to sell drugs. These issues, all these issues you can get under control if you have proper accommodation. I think finally also for the population in Bijac and Velika Kladusa specifically, who has reacted, I think, very well towards a difficult situation, the situation would get a lot easier if you would be able to get migrants away from the city center, from the parks and into official accommodation.
Refugees we spoken with often complain about mistreatment from Croatian police, about violent pushbacks from Croatia and also Slovenia. Can you as official confirm that those cases exist? And what is IOM position regarding that?
I cannot confirm whether or not these stories are true. The only thing that I can confirm is that there's a lot of migrants that tell those stories. We hear my people in the field also hear those stories, but I have no independent means to verify whether these stories are correct or not. I also know that there's violence amongst migrants, so sometimes when people have injuries, it's difficult to establish without proper investigation where these injuries occurred, but I can confirm that we hear the stories as well. Our official position, I think, is very clear in the sense that each state has the right to control its own border with respect for European human rights law, for international law in the sense of access to asylum. And it is clear that under no circumstances countries have the right to use violence, even for people who try to cross the border irregularly. They can be stopped. States have the sovereign right to decide whether or not to accept people on their territory. Again, if people want to apply for asylum, it's a different issue. But violence, of course, can never be the answer to people crossing the border irregularly. But we have no independent means of verifying whether the migrant stories are true or not. I hear those stories as well, my teams hear them, but that's the only thing that I can say with certainty.
Regarding the camp in Velika Kladusa, where is the situation probably the worst? Does IOM or local authorities have a solution for that?
Well, we hope, I mean, very clear the field is unsustainable. No matter how much money we would invest in this field, people cannot stay there. It gets inundated when it rains. We've saw that last week when there were a lot of rains. The little river that flows there is very polluted. The water flows into the... So the site is not sustainable, and it was never intended to be. We hope, we are working together with the local authorities in Velika Kladusa and with the Minister of Security to find a short-term solution to move those people to another location. One of the locations that has been mentioned a number of times is agro-commerce, which could be an alternative for the short term to accommodate people there, because it is a lot better than the field. So hopefully in the next week or two we will have a solution, at least for the short term, so we can move people away from this field, because the situation as it is a humanitarian catastrophe. There is no question about it, and I think we need to be very clear on that. It's a humanitarian catastrophe in that field. There's health issues, there's security concerns, protection concerns, all these issues that I mentioned are there. The only thing is that, of course, we are prioritizing families from the field to come here to the hotel here. Actually, what we have seen, unfortunately, is that some families refuse to move, even though they are staying in the field, because they want to be close to the border in Croatia, because they have arranged it with smugglers to take them across the border. So if there are migrants who are watching this, I really think, especially the people with families, should get out of there as quickly as possible. We have accommodation. There is a process that they can register for that. But unfortunately, we have seen families who, despite the best efforts of our colleagues from UNHCR to talk to them, who refuse to come here.